Hey everybody, this is Trish from Art Journal Junkie, and today we're going to be making painted circles. I'd love to take credit for this, but I must give credit to Cat Hand of Mixed Media Morsels for introducing me to this. So I went to our second-hand bookstore and I bought a cheap little romance novel. Didn't read it, I don't read them, but I certainly do enjoy using them in my journals. So I pulled a page out and I grabbed some acrylics. Now in South Africa we're very limited with the acrylics that we get, and in fact we have to bring in a lot of our product from overseas. You know, everybody knows about dilutions and distressed paints and inks. We don't get them here. We have to ask people who are coming to visit to put them in their suitcases for us. So I'm using Amsterdam acrylics because I know I can get that here, along with Dala, and there are a couple of others that we can get. And I'm using my favorite colors. So I like the bright colors, I love this green, I particularly love pink, and I think a little bit of orange in there as well will complement the other colors that I've chosen. So all I did was I put a little bit onto my craft sheet, and then I grabbed some earbuds. Now let me just warn you, have lots of earbuds on hand, because if you're anything like me, you get really messy and you end up with paint all over. So I started off with putting little circles of color on the page, and I don't mind the texture of the acrylics. In fact, I quite like it, and I didn't try to make them flat. I left them a bit bold and chunky around the edges of some of the circles. The only thing that I can say is be very careful that when you're using different colors not to make mud. I could have dried between each of the layers, but I didn't, so I did get a bit of mud here and there, but that's okay. And you can make your circles as big as you like, just keep building up. Oh, you can see that one earbud got a bit icky, so I just got another one out. And I continued. This is so much easier than using your fingers, because with fingers you have to wipe your fingers off constantly between the colors, and a paintbrush just doesn't have the same effect. Oh, I love the purple that pink and blue made. Right. I quite like my little circles, so I've gone ahead and dried them off, because I'm going to use a wee bit of white now just to highlight around parts of the circle in between the colors and also in the centers. And then with my black acrylic paint, I used an old air freshener lid, and I can't remember where this lid comes from, but at any rate they make nice little circles, and I had a bit of fun with the black paint. Now I've got an inkjet printer, so I printed off my sentiment. I printed it in two different sizes because I wasn't really sure what size I would like to use. And initially I thought the bigger size was going to be better, but once I put it on the page it just sort of like overwhelmed it. So I ended up cutting out the smaller size. Now you know, girls are allowed to change her mind at any time, so I've used the smaller size on Life Comes Full, and then in the circle I went to the bigger size. So this is a new journal that I started recently. I've got some backgrounds ready, and I was sort of looking to see whether I would actually put this onto a background or not. And then I thought, you know, it's so busy enough anyway that I think it would look very nice just on a blank journal page. So I don't go in any order in my journal. I work front, back, middle, wherever I find a page. It's quite exciting. And I used the trusty bulldog clip, put it on the side to keep the other pages flat, and positioned my artwork on the page, on the right hand page. Now I got some washi tape out, thinking I might tape it down with that, and those little circles there are quite nice. but we got enough circles going on the page itself. Even looking at using the zigzag, well, I wasn't sure, it was a bit busy too, so I went back to my trusty black and white washi, the polka dotted one. Now you'll see I've got a tab here that's called Watery Gel Medium. That's because my gel medium is very chunky and it's glucky and awful and leaves streaks and big lumps on my page. So I just take some out of the tub and I put it into a repurposed tub from one of the bath shops here and water it down, and I use that when I'm doing any sort of collage or pasting. And so I like to use a brush. Some people use spatulas. I use a brush, cheap ones, because if they do get a bit icky, you just turf them out and you don't mind what you paid for them. Having said that, in South Africa again, everything is so expensive that I do try and look after what I have. So with the gel medium, I've made sure that the corners are pasted down well. And I do it in sections so that there's very little sort of air pockets or bubbles or creases that come through. And usually I do it in like 2 or 3 stages. I also put a bit of gel medium over the top, and that also helps to set the acrylic so that it doesn't maybe come off on the other page if I decide to put something on the other page, which I'm sure I will do. Not maybe now, but at some stage. And when I do, I'll make another video. So this is quite a time-consuming and tedious thing for me, pasting things down. You know, I like things to work quickly and happen. So for me to wait for things to dry is also a bit of a pain in the neck. But at any rate, I'm learning. Oh yes, one other thing that I wanted to mention is with my watery gel medium, sometimes my inks tend to run, but that's all part of the mixed media, you know. You can see by my brush that some of the ink has come off. Now this is a handy tool. It was given to me by somebody who does vinyl application on shop windows. And it's nice and broad, but if you don't have one of these, you can actually use a credit card as well. What it's doing is it's making sure that the page actually sticks to my journal page, and it's helping to get rid of all the bubbles and the creases that might be there. Now I'm going to put my sentiment on my page, and you'll notice that the only one that I used from the bigger cutout was the word circle. And initially, as I said, a girl is allowed to change her mind, I used the smaller word or the smaller printout of the word life, and I stuck it down just randomly on the page wherever the fancy sort of took me. Whoops. And then I looked at it and I thought it sort of doesn't work for me. The word life should be the same size as circle. So after some deliberation, I thought, I wonder if I could actually remove it. Maybe I'm too late to, maybe I should put something over there. And I was very, very fortunate in that I hadn't dried it completely and I was able to remove the word life. Ah, it's gone. And that gave me the opportunity to use the bigger one and also put it down so that the sentiment all came together instead of the word life being out of place. And then just to be on the safe side, I made sure that my collage was bedded down properly, made sure that all the edges were tightly glued. And I left it to dry. So I was very happy with that. I grabbed my Faber-Castell Pitt pen and I started outlining the words of the sentiment. And then I'm not sure if it was the gel or if my pen actually ran out of ink, but it sort of started getting a little bit scratchy and wasn't working so well. I even tried to clean it on my finger, that didn't work. And eventually I gave up and thought, you know what, just bring out the brush pen. You know, that works. It's a good old trusty one. And I outlined the sentiment. I really like the straight lines. They sort of make me feel happy with all that madness of the circles going on in the background. And then just the last little bit was to add some washi tape. And I think the polka dot was the good choice. And you can see I don't cut it, I just tear it with my fingers because I quite like the little bit of odd edging to it. And you see down the side there, I never cut the book straight either. And finally I added my stomp, and that is my initials. And I was happy with my journal page. So I hope you've enjoyed this as well, and if you have, please won't you subscribe to my channel. It's brand new. This is my first video. I'm new at this, but I hope that you like it, and if you do, press the thumbs up button please. I'm going to put links to Cat Hand, her Facebook page, as well as her Mixed Media Morsels YouTube page, and I hope to see you back here again sometime. Thank you for watching.